Hello everyone, my name is Steve, aka the Minecraft Programmer, and welcome back to episode 2 of our Bukkit plugin tutorials. So last time we learned the basic setup and how to get our plugin up and running, but we haven't actually done anything yet. If we went and ran our plugin from last episode in-game, there would be absolutely nothing. It would just give us a little started up message in the server console when we start the server, and a little stopping message whenever we stop the server, because we haven't actually done anything yet. Even those messages are just Bukkit just saying that they've enabled and disabled our plugin. So in this episode, we're gonna get into some of the basics of actual coding and actual plugin development, and making our plugin actually do something, so we can have an example to show for this episode. So I've gone ahead and just copied our episode 1 folder into episode 2, and just changed all the appropriate names, including the plugin YML, because you'll need to change your main class. Otherwise, the server will throw you an error if you have the wrong package and class here. But other than that, we should be good, so let's get started. So this is the code we wrote last time, and these onEnable and onDisable methods are nice, but they don't actually do anything right now. Now, onDisable is not all that important. We won't use it that much. These are just the two sort of matching methods that I showed you last time. So onEnable will put stuff here in the future, but for now, onDisable we don't really need. So underneath here, let's make a new method. We're going to actually make a command this episode. That's sort of the most basic, one of the most basic things you can do in plugin development. Is listening for text input from a player and then responding. So we're going to make a new method here, and it's going to be a public boolean, and that's basically a boolean is a true/false value, and it's going to be onCommand. And then onCommand will accept some arguments here. The first argument it will accept will be called command sender. Oops. And we'll call that sender. Next we have command, and we'll just cmd. And then we have string label, making a string for the label of the command. And then finally we have a string array, which is the arguments. We'll call that args. So the arguments of the command are basically like, I'll make a little comment here. By the way, comments in Java are just a double slash. Multi-line comments are starting like this. Oops, starting like that. So, and then to end, it's like that. Just a helpful thing if you ever need to comment in your code, something that the compiler will ignore. So basically, here's how this works. So when we execute a command, say, I'll make this out just here a little bit, say /test. This is the command and also the label here. However, so if we just say /test, args won't be used because we don't have any arguments in our command. However, if we had test, I don't know, just to add an argument, then this would be put into the arguments array at basically at block 1. So this would be arg0, since in programming you typically start with 0 and move up from there. So we won't be doing anything with arguments in the future, doing anything with arguments right now, but in the future you may need to use arguments in some of your commands in order to make different options in your commands, like being able to have one master command and then little sub commands within there. But for now, we're not going to use the arguments. So we have our onCommand method set up here. We'll open these brackets up. And you see we have a couple of errors. We'll just organize our imports, and those should go away. It'll ask us which command we want to use. And there we go. But now you'll see we have a big error here. And it says this method must return a result of type Boolean. And since it's a Boolean, we actually have to return something within here. So we'll just go ahead and add a return statement, and it'll automatically return false. And I'll explain the logic of this more in a minute. But for now, let's make an if statement within here. So if, and then we will say cmd.getName equals ignore case. And the reason why we're doing equals ignore case is so even if someone messes up the capitalization of our command, even if they, so we'll call the command test. So if someone types test, then that's what our if statement is testing for. So if they type test, then we'll do whatever inside the if statement. But say they accidentally type, test with an uppercase T, or I don't know why you do this, but there's some sort of capital letter or something different within that command that they're typing. Equals ignore case will still recognize all these things as the same command, and will still execute the same code. So that's why we just use that. You could just use equals, but then that's just less inclusive than that. So we'll open up brackets in here, and then this is where we'll actually put what our command is going to do. So for now, we can just get a player. So we'll do player, and that equals, we'll say that equals sender. you'll see, so we have an import error here, and once we organize our imports, you'll still see that we have a type mismatch here on sender. So it can't convert from command sender, which is what we have sender cast as, to player. So what we just have to do is we just have to add a cast to sender, and that'll cast sender as a player. So now we can get all sorts of attributes about the player, but for now we're just going to send them a message. So we'll player dot send message, and then in here we'll put our message. So we can just say right back at you. You can do anything you want here. You can make it silly, you can make it serious, whatever you want to do. So now, right now, as the code stands, when someone types /test, and by the way, you don't include the slash in your command. Don't do that. It'll automatically look for that as a command. When someone types test, we're getting the player, we're getting a player and casting sender to player, and then we're sending the player a message. And this message can be anything. It's not important for the sake of the tutorial. And even if we want, see right now this will just be plain white. It'll be the default color of the text box, which is white. Text automatically defaults to white within the Minecraft text box. What we can do if we want to make it fancy is we can use this chat color. And we can go chat color, and we can do anything we want here. We can go green, chat color green. So now when we type /test, it'll return back with a green right back at you. So now that we have all this, we need to update our plugin YML. As I was saying, we only needed basic information in the previous episode, but now we need to actually add and register our command. So we'll save our class and open up our plugin YML. And in here, we have our name, our main, and our version. But underneath here, we'll have a new section, and we'll call this commands. So the main thing about YAML syntax that you have to remember here is that you can't use tabs. If you use tabs, the YAML interpreter will yell at you. Quite literally, it will yell at you. It'll throw all sorts of errors. So we instead have to use the spaces. So we'll just use 3 spaces. So 1, 2, 3. 3 spaces in. And now we just register our command name here. So our command is called test. And then we'll indent 3 more spaces. And our description will be a test command. And one more thing will be our usage. And usage will be /test. Because that's all you do to execute our test command. So that's all we need to add to our plugin YML, so we can save that and quit. And now comes the time to export. Remember, you do need a Bukkit or Spigot server. I already have mine running, but we can just right-click, and we'll refresh to make sure our plugin YML is in sync with the rest of our project, and then we'll export, and we'll make it a jar file. I already have it saved to my test server. Make sure all that's selected, and we'll just click Finish. So now I will see you guys in game. I'll refresh my server, and we'll see, in fact, just what our plugin does. Alright, so we're back in game, and I've just reloaded my server, and we should have our plugin loaded now. You can check that by typing /pl, and you can see now we have one plugin loaded, and it's episode 2, the name of our plugin. So now at the moment of truth, if we type /test, it'll return back right back at you. And we have a little logic error here, because it actually says /test. It returns /test, because what we haven't done is we haven't returned true. And I forgot to explain the logic here. So by default, on command will return false. There wasn't a command executed, and if someone tries to type a command, it'll return false and tell them, unknown command. But if we do have this command, if we say this command is in fact valid, then we want to return true. We want that command to execute, and we don't want the unknown command message to play. So let's re-export this now with our returning true inside our if statement, and go back and reload. And there we go, right back at you, and we don't get that little ugly /test underneath us. So now, let's go into /help, and you can see /help episode 2, our plugin is loaded in the Bukkit help list, and we have our little listing here, /test, a test command. And if you remember, that's what we put in our plugin YML. So that's it for this episode. I've taught you how to make a basic command. I've showed you some of the logic behind what we're doing, true versus false, making sure the commands are registered, that sort of thing. Please let me know in the comments what you'd like to see next. I'll probably be doing something about listeners. We'll do some more advanced, listening for player interactions, that sort of thing in the next episode. And also please let me know if you'd like to see longer but fewer episodes, or shorter episodes but less content covered. Because it obviously takes more time to record these longer episodes. So I just want to know what you guys want to think. I can always go faster. I can always, cover less content. But please let me know. But otherwise, that's it for this tutorial. I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video.